Okay, so my name is Felicia Stingone, and I'm with the co-working company called Grind, and I'm going to introduce you. Yay!
Yeah!
Wow, all right. I'm going to introduce you to these three amazing people that we have here up on stage with us. First of all, we have Jeff Wald. He's the president and co-founder of Work Market, which is a web-based platform for managing variable labor resources, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Wow, he's got a bigger fan group. All right. I think there's one thing you need to know about Jeff. Of all of the wonderful credentials he has here, I just have to mention that he is the producer of the Tony Award-winning musical Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. That's just a little sidebar there.
I'm just going to say I'm a producer, not
the producer. Sorry.
Yeah.
You could have just gone with that, but okay.
No, truth in advertising.
And then we're joined here by Eric Oldfield, who is the SVP and General Manager at JustWorks. All right. Previously, he held management roles at Trulia, Zillow, and Live Intent. And then we have Basha Rubin. And Basha is the CEO and co-founder of Priori Legal. She also speaks and writes extensively about how technology is changing and will continue to change the market for legal services. So we're here today to talk about the future of work. And I know it's cliche to say this, but we are all here today shaping not just the future of work, but how we work today. And it seems to be shifting rapidly. Because we have limited time and I want everyone to get a chance to speak from their area of expertise, I'm going to direct questions to particular people. And Jeff, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
You run a tech platform for helping enterprises manage freelancers.
That is correct.
Okay. So when you look at the future of work, how do you see the world of work changing when it comes to the connections between freelancers and the jobs, corporations?
So, when I founded Work Market 6 years ago, we were very keenly aware of something that I think, is not exactly some big insight, which is that the long-term contract for employment long time ago was broken. Right? It used to be you went to a company, they trained you, they developed you, they promoted you, they helped you prepare for your retirement, and then you marched your way towards a gold watch. Right? For about a generation ago, that model broke, and it broke for a host of reasons. Globalization, demographic shifts, some technological shifts. So the reality is that no matter where you are in your career, you're an entrepreneur. You have to think about your own development. You have to think about marketing your skills. You have to think about your retirement. And those are things that are very much, new skill sets to people. This notion that the future of work involves every single person being an entrepreneur, even if it means you're at a company as a full-time employee for 3 or 4 years, that company is no longer looking after your long-term benefit. They are not viewing you as an asset to be developed over a 30-year career. They're viewing you as a skill set to be plugged in, and then when that particular function is done, plugged out. And every single worker needs to think about that and think about how to prepare as corporations continue down this evolution.
I think that's very interesting, and I would just add that I don't know how many of you here are freelancers, or we call them solopreneurs, but I think that a lot of what we're talking about today is that there's a host of services now available to helping you manage your own career as if your career itself was a business, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're working in the gig economy. Basha, I want to know, when we think about the future of work, we can think about not just the interaction between worker and company, as Jeff just spoke of, but we're also seeing changes within the industry. So talk to us a little bit about law, the industry that I'm referring to, and where Priori is helping to bring visibility to lawyers who serve small businesses.
Absolutely. So I think probably pretty similar to Jeff, when I started working on the idea for Priori in 2012, we saw a huge amount of fragmentation among small firms and businesses. So we connect businesses with a network of vetted lawyers at competitive rates. Businesses didn't know how to find lawyers, evaluate their quality, understand how much they should be paying for different types of services. And so instead either went through sort of referrals, which were not, which didn't always lead to optimal outcomes, or just went to big firms because they felt like there was some sort of quality that was guaranteed, as well as sort of a one-stop shop, so it wasn't stressful. But what technology and companies like mine and others in the field I think really changed and made the landscape a lot flatter. So you can evaluate the quality of legal services providers through a centralized platform. That means that sort of the hierarchical firm doesn't need to exist in quite the same way.
That's really great. So you took the decision of choosing an attorney for your business and you made it more objective. You took that subjective, very personal, word of mouth, insider club nature out of that decision making and made it more fair.
Exactly.
That's great. Okay, so now I have to look at my notes. Hold on, I'm not wearing my glasses. So now we're going to talk a little bit to Eric, who's at JustWorks. And just full disclosure, Grind uses JustWorks for our employees. We really love JustWorks. Just going to say that. So JustWorks, they provide insurance and other benefits to small businesses. I think compliance is a hugely important benefit that they offer. If you've ever had a distributed workforce and had to hire people in different states, you'll know how unbelievably overwhelming that can be. But in terms of benefits, Eric, how do you think that the accessibility to benefits changes the way people think about the kind of career or companies they actually can or might pursue?
Benefits are critical, and they're critical for the decision that employees make about what company they're going to work at. Starting a company is really difficult. It's very difficult, and a lot of entrepreneurs that we talk to, particularly first-time entrepreneurs, are really surprised at how difficult it is just doing the bare essentials for benefits, which is payroll, compliance, and healthcare. But when it comes to the future of benefits, I think the key is, there's a story that our CEO tells a lot. He was an Amazon employee, and there was an Amazon all hands that Jeff Bezos was chairing, and there was this sort of no holds barred Q&A, and an employee went up and to the microphone and said, what's your position on the work-life balance at Amazon? And Bezos sort of cackled as he does, and he said, there is no work-life balance, right? There's work-life harmony. And I think a lot of people at Amazon thought he was saying you need to work all the time, but that's not what he was saying. What he was saying was that, people today, they wake up in the morning, they check their email. The last thing they do before they go to bed is check their email. They're working all the time. And so benefits are really more than just healthcare and payroll. They're the things that an employer does to show their respect for an employee's personal life.
I think that's so important. And the thing about a company like JustWorks, and we were talking about this earlier, is we're all entrepreneurs and we are serving an entrepreneurial community. Again, if you think of a freelancer or even a writer, a coder, a graphic designer, even someone who's between jobs and having to groom their career, all of the services that we offer, whether it's co-working, legal help, hooking you up with jobs, or helping you get insurance, these are enabling this new way that we're able to work. If it weren't for these services, I think it would be much harder to pivot your career or start a company. So I think that's an exciting part about the future of work. Another thing I think that we should talk about is how we think. I know we heard earlier that the economy is changing. There's some money changing flow in the marketplace. So when you take that into consideration, how do you think?
Adjustment.
Yeah, adjustment. That's right, adjustment. Flexibility, agile, responsive. When you take all of that into consideration, from where you're standing, do you still think the economy is moving, the future of work is moving in this direction of the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, the gig economy? What do you see happening from your perspective?
Well, I think it's very important to draw a distinction between the gig economy and the variabilization of labor at the corporate level, right? So our customers are all very large enterprises, and the question that they are thinking about in every construct, every time that they think about their cost and their material planning is, can I variabilize and can I minimize that cost? Now, labor by far is the largest cost any company will have. And for the vast majority of the existence of the corporate entity, labor has been a fixed cost. How do you make that cost a variable is something they've been trying to do for ages. Again, the breaking of the long-term employment contract 30 years ago has changed that dynamic. And it's interesting, you hear people saying, oh, well, this new demographic wants to work independent, right? Millennials want to be freelancers.
They actually have
That's
to
bullshit, right? It's total
Right.
bullshit. It is not supported by any data or any facts. The vast majority of the freelance population are mid-career professionals. They're not retirees looking to monetize their skills and increase their retirement benefits. It's not millennials because, I wish I could say we, but you have a different mindset and you think differently. Bullshit. You don't. You look at the writing on the wall that, you know what, I'm not going to have a job at IBM for 30 years and then get a gold watch, right? When people used to start at IBM, they would go to Orlando to IBM University for 6 months. That was your first thing at IBM, and IBM used to stand for, I've been moved, because they never fired anybody. Now at IBM, you are responsible on your own to put in 40 hours of your own time to do your professional development. It is your responsibility now. That's the shift that's occurred. That shift is not going away in any way, shape, or form. This is the way the economy will be structured, and everybody needs to be ready for it.
I think that this is really important. So rarely, especially at an event like this, do you hear the point of view of the corporate structure. You really hear this empowering message, and it's still empowering, that we all want to be working for ourselves. And yes, it does feel good. I also think it's become the new normal. And I think it's become the new normal because it's happening to us and with us. So Basha, what do you think?
Yeah, as you were talking, I think we see two coexisting trends, concomitant trends in the legal marketplace. And I certainly think it is the case that we see a lot of, so in order to join the Priori network, you need 5 years of relevant practice experience. And we prefer that is under the tutelage of a lawyer who has substantially more experience. When we first launched, we did see all these lawyers who'd graduated from law school in 2008 to 2014 who became bartenders and contract lawyers, and that was certainly not their intention. Many of them have left the law. Many of them have now founded their own firms, and some who I met in 2013, I thought, oh my God, why would anyone ever hire you, are actually now running extremely successful practices, but it's militated toward two outcomes.
I think at Boston University, when I was there many years ago, we called it alternative careers in law, and there was a fair for lawyers who burnt out and needed to figure out what was next.
Yeah, but the other trend that we see, which is probably slightly different, which is older lawyers who are sick of the way that law firms demand their time, demand that you're working 80, 90 hours a week, and realize that they can make a couple $100,000 a year hawking their trade from their country house somewhere and use technology to access a lot of the same resources that they previously needed a firm for.
That's fair, but I don't think the freelance economy wants to be defined by the lawyer living in his country house making a few $100,000 a year. But
couldn't
that is
agree
fair.
more.
Look, people want to be freelancers to the extent that they can make a lifestyle choice, but earn enough to have the lifestyle they want, right? And the lifestyle that they want is, somewhere in the $50,000, $60,000 a year range as a minimum. That becomes difficult. With any dislocation, and this, make no mistake about it, is a dislocation in the economic structure and therefore the social structure of society. With any dislocation, there are going to be winners and losers, right? And the reality is, with the freelance economy, with the on-demand economy, data is being captured at a level it has never been captured before, and that data is feeding into the decisions as to whether or not that person gets engaged again. So if you are not good at your job, if you do not perform well, if you are not good at customer service, you are going to get increasingly marginalized, and society needs to figure out what to do with those that are going to be left behind, and there will be a lot.
Data creates that transparency, and speaking of data...
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the variable workforce is very real and growing, but it doesn't, interestingly, I was at my daughter's school last week, and the head of the school was saying to these children in elementary school that, 70% of you will do jobs that have not been invented yet. And I think that says a lot about the future of work. That the relationship between an employer and an employee is is a very important thing. And sort of how that changes over time is really driven by the way that the employer treats that employee. And I think that, respecting an employee's private life, providing sort of next generation benefits really sets the tone for how dedicated an employee will be, and more importantly, sort of like how much they're going to own their responsibility at that company.
I like that term, next generation benefits, because I do think it's really important to know that because things were the way they were, doesn't mean that we're held to those traditions. So there was a time when you couldn't afford, if you were a small business, you couldn't afford to give your employees benefits. And it's still a struggle, but hopefully things are starting to change a little, because I think entrepreneurs want to employ people. What's happening now, and one of the reasons we find so many people coming to co-working, is that your average, people talk about millennials staying in a job between 18 and 24 months. I've heard lots of different statistics, right? I think it's because companies are failing to keep them engaged as much as it is because they have wanderlust and need to leave. So there's, responsibility on both sides. But one of the things that, and I don't really know how you want to speak to this, but one of the things about co-working that's so important is that there are a lot of people in co-working. They're not just startups or freelancers or entrepreneurs. There are a lot of people going through transition. And, the way I came to co-working was I was transitioning. I used to work for Danny Meyer. A lot of things happened with Shake Shack. A lot of people decided to do other things. And you found yourself in a position where, well, what do I do next? And I think co-working, as an example, created a community. And I'm sure, I don't know if you have a community through your work. I know that JustWorks has a community. How do you then engage that community to figure out what's the next move? How can I make money? I still need to, survive. So talk to me a little bit about maybe how what you're doing is also serving the transition of, I can't remember, how many jobs is it said now that the average person will have 14 jobs? Is that what they're saying? So I don't know, talk a little from your point of view. I mean, you just kind of mentioned it with law, how that's changing your industry.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we try and do at Priori, as all these lawyers are leaving larger firms to find new models of practice, whether through their own choice or not, is to create communities within our company that we can provide, that we are sort of a tech infrastructure that lays over the practice of law, but that we don't want people isolated in their homes or even in their co-working spaces,
or their country homes,
in their beautiful country homes, but not interacting, not developing professionally, not talking about the challenges that they face. So we've made a conscientious effort to build a community among the suppliers in our marketplace so that they can get together and learn about what other solo practitioners or small firms in similar positions are doing.
So we have not. Right, we don't do that in any way, shape, or form. I want nothing to do with it. I will say, of the 248 discrete marketplaces out there, I think, Basha, your team does an exceptional job at this, and I think some people do it really poorly. We're an enterprise software company, right? We are the layer of software that helps corporations manage their own on-demand labor force. So it's not up to me to create that society. There are millions of people that log into Work Market every day. There are only 200,000 that are in our marketplace, right? Anybody and everybody. It's the people in Yahoo's private environment, in Lockheed Martin's private environment, in Walgreens' private environment, in Cisco's private environment, that Cisco has to make the effort to say, you know what, we are going to have a very large component of our labor be on demand. How can we make sure that that group of people are going to be engaged, they're going to represent our brand, and we want them to do something to look after them, but they recognize that both legally and morally, they are not their employees, and therefore they are not managing their careers, but they still want to optimize that labor input.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to actually say thank you now because I see the flashing light. Basha, Eric, Jeff, thank you so much. And that's it, guys.